Throughout human history, drinks have never been merely about quenching thirst. Certain beverages carried meanings far beyond their physical form. In the ancient world, a liquid could symbolize power, wisdom, immortality, fertility, or even direct access to the divine. Fermentation itself appeared mysterious and almost supernatural. Grape juice transformed into wine, grains turned into beer, honey evolved into intoxicating mead. Without modern chemistry, these invisible processes seem like sacred transformations, evidence of hidden forces at work. To ancient societies, such changes were not just biological reactions, they were divine interventions. In Greek mythology, the gods of Mount Olympus consumed nectar and ambrosia. These were not ordinary sustenance. They were the very substances that granted immortality. The king of the gods, Zeus, maintained eternal life through these divine offerings. Mortals were forbidden from consuming them, reinforcing the boundary between human fragility and divine permanence. Meanwhile, Dionysus embodied the intoxicating power of wine. But wine, in his cult, was not simply alcohol. It was ecstasy, liberation, and transcendence. Through ritual intoxication, followers sought to dissolve the limits of individuality and briefly experience divine madness. In this sense, wine became a portal to altered consciousness, a symbolic merging with the god himself. In Norse mythology, mead fermented honey held sacred significance. The most famous myth centers on the Mead of Poetry, a magical drink that granted wisdom and poetic genius to anyone who consumed it. According to legend, the god Odin went to extraordinary lengths to obtain it, enduring sacrifice and deception. Wisdom, in this narrative, was not merely learned, it was imbibed. Knowledge flowed like liquid, reinforcing the symbolic connection between drink and intellectual power. In the Vedic traditions of ancient India, Soma occupied a central spiritual role. Mentioned extensively in the Rig Veda, Soma was both a deity and a sacred drink prepared for ritual ceremonies. Priests consumed it to achieve heightened awareness and spiritual clarity, and it was offered to the gods as a divine libation. Soma was believed to energize the body, elevate the mind, and bridge the gap between earthly and cosmic realms. Its exact botanical identity remains debated among scholars, adding to its enduring mystery. Whatever its composition, Soma represented divine vitality in liquid form. Ancient Egypt also revered sacred beverages, particularly beer. Beer was not merely a daily staple, it was a ritual offering and a symbol of life itself. In one myth, the sun god Ra sent a destructive force to punish humanity. To prevent total annihilation, the gods dyed vast quantities of beer, red to resemble blood. The destructive entity drank the beer, became intoxicated, and abandoned the massacre. In this story, beer quite literally saved humanity. It symbolized both destruction and salvation, chaos and restoration. Across the Atlantic, the Aztecs honored pulque, a fermented beverage derived from the agave plant. Pulque was associated with fertility, agriculture, and the goddess Mayahuel. It played a crucial role in ritual life, consumed during sacred ceremonies under strict social regulations. Intoxication was not casual indulgence. It was a controlled spiritual experience designed to connect participants with cosmic forces. Despite cultural differences, a striking pattern emerges. Sacred drinks consistently symbolize transformation. They transform ingredients through fermentation. They transform consciousness through intoxication. They transform social bonds through communal rituals. And in myth, they transform mortals, granting wisdom, strength, or even immortality. The act of drinking also reinforced hierarchy. Who was allowed to consume the sacred beverage? When and under what circumstances? These questions were governed by religious authority. Access to divine liquids often meant access to power. Thus, sacred drinks were not only spiritual tools, but also instruments of social control and political legitimacy. From a psychological perspective, intoxication naturally alters perception, emotion, and cognition. Ancient peoples interpreted these altered states as divine encounters. When reality shifted, it was understood not as a neurological effect, but as spiritual visitation. The drink was the gateway. The altered state was proof of transcendence. Even today, Echoes of these sacred traditions remain. Wine is central to Christian Eucharistic rituals. Sake holds ceremonial significance in Shinto traditions. Tea ceremonies in East Asia elevate an ordinary beverage into a disciplined spiritual practice. While modern societies often treat alcohol and other drinks as recreational commodities, their symbolic foundations run deep into mythic consciousness. Perhaps sacred beverages reveal something profound about humanity. We have always sought connection to nature, to each other, and to forces greater than ourselves. Liquids, essential for survival, became ideal carriers of symbolism. They flow, they change, they sustain life. It is no coincidence that immortality, wisdom, and divine favor were imagined as drinkable. Maybe humans did not simply invent sacred drinks. Maybe sacred drinks shaped how humans imagined their gods. Within a cup or chalice, ancient civilizations poured not only fermented grains or crushed grapes, but their fears, hopes, hierarchies, and cosmologies. In the end, sacred beverages remind us that belief can be tasted, and sometimes the boundary between the mortal and the divine is no thicker than the rim of a cup.